Namaste, guys. Christian Long, life enhancement consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this transformation Q&A Thursday on Sunday. Before we begin, let us invoke. Place your hands on your heart. Be aware of your heart. Be aware of your crown. Be aware of your heart and your crown together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, respected and beloved teacher, Grandmaster Cho Kuk Sui, to his teacher, Lord Bodhisattva Meling, to Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, to Lord Ganesh, to Saraswati, to Holy Master Count Saint Germain, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, to the angels of 2022, the beginning of the year, to the angels of awareness and wisdom, to our divine selves or higher souls, we humbly invoke for your divine light, love, and power, your divine help, guidance, and protection, for your soothing, healing energies, for your transformational energies. Thank you for helping us become brighter, more intelligent, more understanding beings, to alleviate our own suffering and the suffering of others. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you with gratitude, respect, and love. We thank you in full faith. So be it, and so it is. Because isn't that ultimately what we're trying to do? Is we're trying to do the right thing, right? And stop doing the wrong thing. So we alleviate our suffering and then we move forward to greater and greater and greater oneness. Oneness with God, oneness with all. So hopefully everyone had an amazing, phenomenal, beautiful celebration into 2022. Right now it's January 2nd. And how's is the lighting better? Is everything kind of clear? So a couple cool things. So I have lights and I have colored lights, right? The Philips Hue. I highly recommend purchasing them. You can buy up to 10 light bulbs and operate every single one of them individually or collectively with your app on your phone. And then if you have more than 10 light bulbs, you need to get this little accessory. It's like $100 or something like that. The lights aren't cheap, but they last for a very long time, and the spectrum is 16 million colors, which is pretty baller. And so I've been looking for how can I have better light so you guys can see me better, because audio is super important. Audio is actually more important than what you can see, but also seeing, right? You want to be able to see my eyes instead of me being in the dark. So let me know if this is good, if this is the best you've ever seen it, if I could do something better to improve it, because I have my viewpoint and my opinions, and you guys have your viewpoints and your opinions, and we collectively bring them together and we have a better, more workable solution. So let me know if there's a better color, because I can change the hues, right? Philips Hue, I can change the hues. Right now I have a soft pink and two bright white lights, and then a white light that's kind of coated a little bit, dimmed a little bit. And also, because you guys are part of the Inner Transformation membership and your feedback is super, super important, I'm going to be placing something behind me as the backdrop. And I want to get your feedback of what do you think I should do. So my field of vision is not too big. So where the camera is, I can't have something, how do I put this? I lean more towards this way. Why do I lean more towards this way? Because it's the dimensions of the apartment that I'm in. Right above me to the right, there's a drop down of the ceiling, which is not good feng shui if I'm in the middle. It's called pressure chi, right? So I don't want to be in the middle. I either want to be all the way to the right, which is going to be catching the door here, or if I'm in the middle, now I have I don't have the pressure chi on my right side. Everything's even coming down. So what kind of thing would you like to see in the backdrop? Would you like to see a print? Would you like to see aluminum foil? Would you like to see a tanka? Would you like to see something illuminated? Whatever. I'm looking for feedback. And if I don't explicitly take your feedback, please don't take it personally. I'm not doing it to hurt you. I'm simply getting feedback, right? As a Gemini, I'm always communicating, I'm always brainstorming, and I say, hey guys, this is what I need. What do you think? And then you guys give me feedback. And then from that feedback, I synthesize the best solution for the bigger purpose, right? So if you have an idea, please let me know. And, over the next month or so, we'll implement that as the new backdrop, because I have new plans of new things. And I want to make it nice and pretty and visually stimulating. Also, I'll probably be getting a better microphone and or having an arm so I can pull it closer so you guys can hear me, because it's a little far from the table and it would be kind of hard to do this, right? The whole talking into it the whole time. So we have it off to the side here. So I might get an arm and or a new microphone in general. So changes, right? Changes are good. Changes keep the energy clean, keep things moving in the right direction. And it's been raining here in Honolulu the past week. Right now is one of the first times in the past week that it hasn't rained for over an hour. The sun's been partially out, partially. I mean, it's 6 o'clock, so the sun basically set about almost about 40 minutes ago. So it is what it is, but still super, super grateful to be here. And I'm excited. Whether this is I found out that this is the winter season / rainy season or wet season. So from November to March, and then from April to October is the dry season or the summer season. So right now in Oahu, the biggest waves, some of the biggest waves in the world are taking place right now. Even there's certain beaches that unless you're an advanced swimmer, they don't even recommend you go on the beach in the water. Okay. So like over 20-foot waves or over 6 meters, 6-meter waves over that. 20 is like kind of the bare minimum. So I'm not an advanced swimmer. I'm more of an intermediate swimmer. So I would definitely watch where I go. But then during the slow time or the summertime or the dry time of the year, you can walk really, really far out from the shoreline and the waves are teeny weeny. And so it's really relaxing and calming. So you get a nice mixing it up throughout the year, right? People would think, oh, it's there's no seasons, there's no variety. It's not like summer, spring, winter, fall, like you would in New England where I grew up. Not even close. There's plenty of variety in the weather. I didn't think so at first, but being, in the islands for a couple months, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of variety. There's all these microclimates. The one thing that is consistent that I'm super grateful I don't have to experience is humidity. Growing up in Massachusetts, when it was humid, it was intense, super intense. You're like, I can't do anything right now. So, and the humidity was really intense in Puerto Rico as well. I guess because I was closer to the equator. But here in Oahu, very, very little humidity. It's like 60% or less. So nice and easy. Where I was in Massachusetts, it was 90% humidity. It's aggressive. So I don't know how people do it. Like the Philippines, I think they have really high humidity, or other places in South America. Shall we get into the Q&A? Shall we start here? But again, any feedback that you guys have about the lighting tone, about the microphone, right? And for some reason, I have to kind of change the microphone settings every time, and I don't know why. It should be locked in. So my apologies if it's clearer some days than others. I'm sitting in the exact same spot. Pretty much the dynamic around the desk is the same. The microphone's angled at the same, close to me in the same, but then it sounds different. So I'm not quite sure what that is. So my apologies. And then what you guys would like to see is a backdrop. And the thing right here that is in the distance, it's a smoke alarm. So I have no problem covering it. Also, to save people time, because we do energy, we connect to energy, the colors we work with are typically pastels or whites. What do I mean by that? I would not put a black thing up behind me. Why? Because black is shielding, right? So if you're trying to radiate, which is what we do with the Inner Transformation membership, it's about radiating light and radiating certain kinds of energies, not about shielding or cloaking those energies, right? So you typically won't see me have something black. Also, healers in general don't wear black clothing. They don't wear black shirts. They don't wear black pants. Otherwise, they could be shielding themselves like a priest, like a rabbi. They could be shielding themselves, and that's why they wear darker colors, or a nun, for instance. But in general, we like bright colors, pastels. You say, well, you said pastels. Why not darker colors? What's the deal? Why not a dark violet or a dark green? Because it's the intensity and potency of the color, right? So I remember a long time ago when I was living in New Jersey, which was a very challenging time in my life beyond, it's like going back to that time period of like 11, 12 years ago. It's unimaginable that this person is the same person who experienced that. It's really quite the contrast. And so we had all white walls in our apartment, and then we were thinking, okay, well, let's change the energy of this place. What kind of colors are we going to do? And we ended up painting the walls throughout the whole place a medium violet or medium purple, which is really intense, which only magnified what was going on in that place. So when you paint a wall, you want to paint it not a neon, not a medium or a dark color, but you want to paint it like a pastel, just enough to have the influence of the properties of that colored prana, right? So instead of, if you want the properties of materialization, for instance, like you want the place to charge you up, you wouldn't do medium or dark red, especially you wouldn't do dark red. You do like a very light pink on the walls, which would have a stimulating effect, and it could also activate the heart. Because remember, when the basic chakra is affected, it also affects the heart, and vice versa, right? Because the basic chakra deals with dynamic activity, the basic chakra deals with the physical body and affects the organs, and the heart is an organ, right? So red prana stimulates, dilates, expands. If you want to have a cooling energy, like a baby's bedroom, you would paint the walls light blue, like even lighter than the sky blue. It has a calming effect. Now, if you have a child that's worked up all the time, darker blue, right? But in general, it's not recommended to have that color all the time. So when you paint a room, pastel colors, and then you have to know the properties. And if you don't know the properties of certain colors, go to the Advanced Pranic Healing book by Grandmaster Choa Koksui, and it will give you, okay, the properties of yellow, properties of green, properties of blue, properties of red, properties of violet, right? And then you can act accordingly. So again, anything that's back here, it's going to be lighter pastel colors. No dark anything, and definitely staying away from blacks. Okay? Because it's shielding. Black can have a purpose, but for the purpose we're doing here for the filming, no. Christian, can we get into the Q&A? I think we've covered this. Just filling everyone in. Fair? Okay, perfect. So onward and upwards. That was a close-up. Okay. So first question. Are the whiteboard technique and the blue triangle technique working towards the same thing of developing one's character or not? Very good question that I can only cover so much. So within pranic healing, if you read the Pranic Psychotherapy book, which is the third class, it was the second class ever created by Master Choa, but it's typically called level 3. So level 1 is basic pranic healing, level 2 is advanced pranic healing with colors, and then level 3 pranic healing is for psychotherapy, like phobias, addictions, things like that, where we primarily use a certain kind of energy called electric violet energy or electric violet prana for healing your emotional and mental bodies. So in the Pranic Psychotherapy book, there's a technique for extracting weaknesses or vices that you have. So let's say you have the weakness of greed. You can use this technique. You have the weakness of anger. You can use this technique. You have the weakness of excessive sexual desire. You can use the technique. You have the weakness of negative pride. You can use the technique, right? And it's in that book. So we kind of have a rule that if Master Choa wrote it in the books, we can kind of talk about it openly because it's meant for the public. Now, we don't go into specific details because we want you to what? Go to the source, buy the book, read the book, understand the book, consume and absorb and assimilate the energies of the book, right? Because books are wisdom, books are light, right? So the whiteboard technique is in that book, where you basically, in essence, picture a whiteboard in front of you. You coat it in dark blue, interesting. Why dark blue? Because it prevents it from moving, the energy you're projecting on there. And then you dump your stuff on there: greed, lust, negative pride, fear, anger, whatever. You dump it on there. You disconnect, or you cut the cord between you and the board. You cut the cord, right? And then you imagine, you be aware of your crown, be aware of your hand, and then you imagine you have a electric violet eraser erasing the board. Simple, right? And then you think, speak, and do the opposite positive qualities. So if you're working on anger, you dump all the anger on the board, you disconnect from the anger, you erase all the anger, and then you go, okay, if I were to put myself back in that situation again, what would I be thinking to myself? What would I be saying to myself or the other person or persons? And then what would I be doing in that situation? So I lost it. I got really angry and frustrated and screamed and yelled, and I picked up a plate and I threw it across the room. I'll give you guys a story, just in case anyone's curious of like, is Christian perfect? Is Christian a saint? Are we plugged into like getting fed by a saint? Just so we can put that to sleep, that that's not the case even a little bit. About maybe 16, 17 years ago, when I was just getting involved in pranic healing and just practicing Twin Hearts regularly, I'm not proud of this, but I want to give you guys understanding. I don't have, I remember when the masters would share things about their lives, or you would have understanding about some of the things that they've had to overcome. And you're like, got it. They're human beings too. I keep putting them on a pedestal and thinking they're above me. Okay, got it. Now, do they have abilities that most of the world does not have? Yes, but have they also worked to develop those abilities? Yes. So it's kind of like, if I'm not mistaken, who was the Michelangelo with the David, and he was saying that if people knew, I'm paraphrasing, you can look it up online, if people knew the amount of effort put into this, they would not be that impressed. Right. So we see something like the David and we're like, the sculpture, the proportions, it's amazing. But if you're like, yeah, but do you know how much effort and time and energy and attention and awareness that was put in to make something like that, or to be the person to make something like that? You wouldn't think it's that impressive. Right. So it's the same thing. We look at a master pranic healer, or we look at a great spiritual teacher, and we're like, I could never do what that person does. It's like, yeah, but have you put in the time, the money, the energy, the awareness, the understanding, the service, the making mistakes, bumping your head, bumping your hands, bumping your toes, right? Have you made the mistakes in order to develop all that wisdom to be that, that awakened? Most people have not. So how could you expect to have the same result as a master or a great teacher? So I wanted to share this story with you because I've come a tremendously far way on my path over the past 22 years, but I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I still make mistakes. I still drop the ball from time to time with myself, with my son, with clients, with whomever, right? Because I'm human, right? So we have to kind of always have respect for our spiritual teachers and our guides, but we don't pedestalize anybody, right? Never pedestalize people, because then you'll inevitably be let down when they let you down, because you've put them to a standard that's near impossible, which is kind of funny when it comes to the pranic healing masters. I don't really put them, I've always had respect for the masters. I am not chummy with them. Like, I'll laugh with them and I'll high five one of the masters because I have a special connection with her, but I'm always like, it's always like a professional relationship that I have with the masters. And it's been that way for 18 years. But the more I know about them, the more in awe I am of who they are. So it's like I'm thinking, well, am I pedestalizing them? But then they show me something else that makes me go, wow, they're even more developed than I thought. Or they do something else, or I get a healing, or I get an insight, or I get a blessing. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize that. Holy moly. So we want to see people accurately, right? Like if how would you know if Lord Jesus was sitting in front of you just in a different body, or Lord Buddha was sitting in front of you just in a different body? How would you know? Would you be basing on like, oh, there's a flame all around this being? Oh, it must be a great teacher, right? So as we become more developed, we can see the development of others. I use the example of a fisherman can spot another fisherman from afar. So the more developed you become, you start to notice, wow, that person is very developed, or, oh, I see that person's blind spots and their weaknesses and things that they're working on. Not in judgment, not in criticism, because then you're involving negative emotions, but you can go, yeah, that person has anger issues. That person has sexual addiction. That person has this, this, and this. And you have understanding. So you can start discerning what they're telling you of like, that person is a great person to come to for this advice, for this counsel, for this understanding. Even one of the masters said years ago, I'm not the person to come to about this issue, about these kinds of issues. And I was like, wow, that's pretty humble. So going back to my my original story, talking about character building, talking about awareness. There was a time, because I lacked so much awareness and I had so much healing that needed to take place my first couple of years in pranic healing, that I remember getting into a very, very intense argument with my wife at the time, that I was so mad. So her and I were looking at each other and we were getting into a really big fight. And she's a person that doesn't back down, and I'm a person that doesn't back down. So you have two stubborn, bullheaded people unwilling to back down. I would never hit her. She never hit me. We never had that. We never had a physically abusive relationship, but every other kind of abuse pretty much was there. So I was holding a bowl after having cereal, and I was so upset, uncontrollably upset, like I lost awareness, right? That I remember smashing the bowl on the ground, right in front of her, in front of me, and the shards of porcelain went everywhere, all over the floor, all over, like, just everywhere, right? You know how porcelain is, right? And some of the bits of porcelain ended up sticking into my feet and cutting me, right? That's how angry I was. So you go, Christian, what does this have to do at all with the whiteboard technique and character building? It has everything to do with it. Because now, with learning the whiteboard technique, I can take that scene, put it onto the whiteboard, and then erase it, disconnect from it, erase it, and then go, all right, what was the origin of that argument? What was my viewpoint about myself, about her, and about the situation that was causing the irritability, the frustration, the anger? What was causing it? And then I can go, okay, moving forward, the right thought is this, the right thing to say would have been that, and the right thing to do would have been this. So remember, the virtues are yin and yang. The yin is the not doing, and the yang is the doing. So I wouldn't have done what? Thrown the bowl down and shattered it all over the floor. So we lost the bowl. I got my feet cut, and I had to clean up the mess, and I had to apologize to her, and I had to deal with the karmic consequences of causing my wife trauma. I caused myself trauma for sure, but I also caused her trauma, right? If you saw somebody throw down a bowl in rage, don't you think that would kind of be traumatic for you, right? So what not to do? And then the question is, okay, what's the loving and kind thing to do? If that's the virtue you're working on, what's the loving and kind thing to do? Okay, I should have thought this. Okay, I should have said this. Okay. And I should have done this. Okay. So the not doing, not saying, not thinking the hurtful thing, not saying the hurtful thing, and not doing the hurtful thing. And then thinking the loving thing, saying the loving thing, and doing the loving thing. Okay. That is how you develop the virtues using the whiteboard technique. Now, with the original question, is the whiteboard technique and the blue triangle technique working in the same direction? So the blue triangle technique is a technique that is taught within Arhatic Yoga. So you have to take Arhatic Yoga, and then you're taught the technique, or you take Kriya Shakti, and then you're taught the technique. And the blue triangle technique is a technique for purification, purification, purification. So it's teaching you how to remove all that stuff, and then teaching you how to build the good stuff. So remove the not so good stuff and build the good stuff. I can't go into the finer details of the different techniques of the whiteboard technique and the blue triangle technique, but it's more so connected to energetic hygiene. It's more connected to you're more likely to be a healer. That's why the technique changes a little bit, and the technique is more powerful, the blue triangle technique versus the whiteboard technique. Now, does that mean if you do the whiteboard technique, you're not going to get value out of it? You're not going to transform from being a person full of vice to being a person of good character? Absolutely not. I highly recommend it. I've transformed my own life using just the whiteboard technique, never mind blue triangle, and never mind other practices within pranic healing or Hatha yoga. Because as Vince Lombardi would teach the Green Bay Packers, go back to basics. He would, every beginning of every season, he would hold the football and he says, this is a football. He would bring people back to the basics. So character building should be a basic practice in your spiritual life. Yes, meditations are beautiful. Meditations give you lots and lots and lots of energy. They give you lots and lots and lots of power. But if you have so many impurities within your system, and then you get all this access to really powerful energies, it's going to destroy your life. I know this firsthand in many areas and many times. So you have to purify, purify, purify. Then you start doing your meditations, and then you can start producing miracles. Okay. So that's about all I can cover with that. The whiteboard technique, you'll again find it in the Pranic Psychotherapy book. Read it, understand it, practice it, understand it deeper, and then eventually master it. Okay. Next question. You mentioned doing one meditation per day, but is it okay to do the forgiveness meditation and Twin Hearts meditation on the same day? Excellent question. Okay. So within pranic healing, we have the forgiveness meditation. Now, to my recollection, there is no recorded forgiveness meditation by Master Choa, but Master Ko in 2010 recorded a forgiveness meditation that's 21 minutes long. In that meditation, the first 10 minutes of it is you forgiving a person 3 times. The last 10 minutes of the meditation is receiving healing. It's super powerful. I've lost count of how many times I've practiced it over the past 10 plus years. I recommend it to pretty much every single client that I work with, because forgiveness is something that has to be done daily. Daily. Why does it have to be done daily? Because daily we're mad at ourselves, and daily we're mad at other people, because mistakes are made, feelings are hurt, misunderstandings happen. So forgiveness has to be done daily on ourselves and on other people. Okay. So that's a meditation I would highly recommend practicing. If you go onto YouTube, pranic healing forgiveness, bam, you'll see it right there. Pranic healing forgiveness, bam. Very, very powerful. So I highly recommend doing that daily. One of the masters said a few years ago, you need to do forgiveness every day. He was telling us collectively, you need to do forgiveness every day. He wasn't just pulling me to the side, say, Christian, I thought I'd pull you to the side. You look like you have a lot of anger and minimal inner peace. Do forgiveness daily. No, he was saying that to the group. And then the Twin Hearts meditation. There's a 3-minute version. There's a 35-minute version of the Twin Hearts meditation. That is the foundational meditation we do within pranic healing and Hatha yoga. You can do each of those meditations daily. So you could do forgiveness in the morning and the afternoon and the evening. You could do twin hearts in the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. You're good to go. The way I typically do it is forgiveness first, then twin hearts. Right? Forgiveness first, then twin hearts. You go, well, Christian, isn't that too much meditating? Isn't that generating too much energy? No, because both of them are designed to activate the heart, activate the crown, and cleanse and purify your energy body. They're not meditations to expand your energy or access the will aspect of the soul. It's accessing the love aspect of the soul, which love does what, guys? Soothes, heals, nurtures, nourishes, protects, provides, preserves. Very important, right? So it's activating the love aspect. That's why you can always do twin hearts meditation, no matter what you're going through in your life. And you can always do forgiveness, because if you are angry at yourself or another person, unequivocally, without exception, you need to do the forgiveness meditation. Now, do you need to do the 21-minute version of Master Ko's version? Not necessarily. Can you do other forgiveness practices like here in Hawaii, Ho'oponopono? You can practice that. That's a forgiveness technique. I prefer Master Ko's version because it's goes deeper, right, than just quickly saying something. But if that resonates with you and that gets you excited, then do that. If your religion or spiritual school has a forgiveness practice that you resonate with, that you do regularly, then by all means. But you have to be very good at forgiving. Super, super important. Okay. So yes. Now, if you say the other meditations in Arhatic yoga, no, my counsel would be different, and it would be dependent upon you, your karma, your circumstances, your objectives, many, many different things. But forgiveness every day, twin hearts every day. Next question. The print's a little bit teenier. I didn't format that right. How to implement benefits of meditation during moments of stress. The main reason as to why I got into meditation is to manage my anxiety. There are more times than I would like where I feel my emotions take over me, and I cannot let what I am feeling pass. It isn't always anxiety either. It could be a list of to-dos or other thoughts, etc. Essentially, my mind is racing 80% of the time with all sorts of thoughts. How long does it take for the benefits of meditation to kick in? I know there's no set time and it's different in the moment, but does anyone have any tips on how to stay calm in moments of stress? If anyone has any personal experiences, please let me know. So the person says, I have anxiety most of the time, 80% of the time, racing thoughts. What do I do? It's not necessarily about managing the anxiety, but it's about going to the root or the cause of it. So what do we say? Pranic healing is what to allopathic medicine? It is complementary to allopathic medicine. It is not a replacement of. But to give you an example, if somebody has regular migraine headaches and they take aspirin or very strong whatever to take away the pain, is that resolving the underlying issue that's causing the migraine headaches? No, right? So it's the same thing. If a person is going, okay, I'm meditating and I feel a little bit calmer, but then my anxiety spikes again. Do I keep meditating more? Do I change my meditations? Do I go from this church to another church? How do I find the solution? Where the person's looking in the wrong way, at the wrong place. They should be looking at the origin of their viewpoint around anxiety. What is causing the anxiety? Right? Look at the cause of the anxiety. So it's probably some trauma. And most likely, when we are traumatized, in order to keep ourselves psychologically sane, we create little you could say like bubble wrap. So we're traumatized by something, a car accident, an abusive relationship, having our heart broken, whatever. We get traumatized in some way, and then we create this viewpoint and we create this trauma around it. To prevent us from losing our minds, we kind of put energetic bubble wrap. follow me here. Energetic bubble wrap around the trauma, so it's not so loud in our energy bodies, but it is still affecting us. So whenever that person sits down to meditate, that trauma is can be amplified in their system. And then they have to deal with it. But if you can lovingly and gently and patiently look at the trauma objectively, which is difficult for people, and you can just look at it and go, okay, what's the source of this trauma? And then little by little, it'll start revealing itself. You'll see flashes of people, flashes of circumstances, old buried repressed memories that you're like, I haven't thought out in 35, 40, 50 years. That's interesting. And then you just lovingly allow it to be released, and then it can come out of the aura. Ideally, that's what therapy does. You sit with a therapist, and a therapist energetically and verbally is poking around in your emotional and mental bodies, looking for trauma and helping you do what? Develop awareness, and then having a pathway to healing. Pranic healing can accelerate that. So you do coaching to pull out the thing, the trauma, the memory, the triggers, and then pranic healing goes in and removes those things, and the person's energy body can expand and breathe and heal. More light, love, and power is introduced, and the person moves forward. So I always would say, go to the origin of the anxiety. What is making you anxious? And if somebody says, I don't know, I've just always been an anxious person, it's a bit of a cop-out, right? I've always been a hypersexual person, bit of a cop-out. I've always been bad with money, bit of a cop-out. I've always had a temper, bit of a cop-out, right? So you have to look at the origin. Where did this start? And most of these things start in childhood, or usually the latest in our teenage years, like our early teens. So childhood to mid-teens, that's where you're going to find most of your stuff that you may have suppressed and not dealt with, but it's still affecting you psychologically and energetically. In general, we're not born anxious. Something traumatizes us that causes us to feel unsafe in the world. So I would recommend the person look at the origin. I would recommend the person get psychotherapy healing. I would recommend the person work with a coach or work with a therapist to have more understanding and awareness of what's going on with them. And then they can move forward. How long does it take for the benefits of meditation to kick in? Depends on the person. In Twin Hearts, usually it's like that. Funny enough, I had a client who came to the Twin Hearts meditation in downtown Denver at the YMCA. He came for almost 3 years. And I remember a year and a half into it, we were going around in the circle sharing experiences like, hey, how was your meditation? What came up for you? What did you see? Where did you go? Blah, blah, blah. And it got to him and I said, how are you doing? And I knew his story. I knew his background. He would come in for healings, and, I'm not going to like out him to the group, but I said, so how was it? And he goes, well, to be honest with you, I don't really feel much ever during the meditations. I don't feel extra loving. I don't feel extra peaceful. Like, I feel kind of, okay. And I said, why do you keep coming back then? Kind of knowing the answer, but I wanted him to verbalize it for the group. And he says, because I notice throughout my week, it goes smoother when I come to meditation versus when I don't go to meditation or don't come to the group. I was like, very interesting, right? So you might not immediately go, the sky's parting, lights coming down, doves are flying through you during a Twin Hearts meditation or during any kind of meditation. But if you're being still and being aware throughout the next couple hours, next couple of days, next couple of weeks, most likely you're going to notice a shift, even with one meditation. And if you practice regularly for weeks, months, and years, you will notice much more benefits to your practice. Actually, one of my clients has been historically consistently inconsistent with every spiritual practice he's ever had. So that was something that we started to work on right from the get-go. And I said, okay, no matter what, stick to your practice. And he's like, 1 week goes by, he goes, yeah, I'm having some difficulties. I'm having okay benefits, nothing major. And I go, stick to your practice. 2nd week goes by. How are things? Yeah, a little bit better. I'm not really seeing huge results. 3rd week, same thing. 4th week, same thing. 5th week, he's like, whoa, I'm really starting to like get into the groove of this. And I noticed this throughout the week and that throughout the week. And this was harmonious and that didn't cause me an anxiety. And I did this confidently. And I go, what do you think that is? He goes, because I've been regular with my practice, even when I don't feel like doing it. And even when I don't see immediate benefits of doing it. I go, exactly. Like, think about this. When you're going to the gym to work out and you have an amazing workout, are you super duper extra fit at the end of that great workout than before that workout? No, it was just one workout. But if you have 50 of those workouts over the course of 2 months, guess what? You're going to be a different transformed human being physically. Meditation is the same thing, and it's even more powerful. Okay, so be regular with your practice. Forgiveness daily, Twin Hearts daily. Ta-da! That'll definitely help your anxiety. Next question. Is there a problem of feeling numb limbs during meditation? Just asking if it's healthy. Is there a problem of feeling numb limbs during meditation? Now, ruling out the physical factor of a cardiovascular problem, right? Because we have to consider that, like, well, do you have numb limbs other times of the day? Do they fall asleep when you're sitting in your chair? Do they fall asleep when you're sleeping at night and wake up and you're in excruciating pain? Like, if we rule out that you only experience numb limbs when you meditate, that's a good thing. Why is it a good thing? Because you're getting awareness that you're not the body. You're getting awareness that you're observing. Because when you're super, super still in meditation, everything physically disappears. So you don't know you're actually sitting in a chair. You can't feel the chair. You can't feel your body on the chair. You can't feel or experience anything on the physical level, numb limbs and all. So that's one level of greater experience that I am not the body. I'm not the body. Then you'll experience I'm not the emotions. You'll have a space of no emotionality. Then you reach a point in your practice, no thoughts. No thoughts. You're not trying to not have thoughts. You're not trying to not have feelings. You're not trying to not feel your physical bodies, the sensations of your physical body. It's a byproduct of proper practice. And then you have experience of greater oneness. Your higher intuition's activated. You can go places, see things. And then you transcend that. Then where do you go? The gap. Okay. So nothing wrong with feeling numb limbs while you're meditating. You could be doing like a weird, like having your arm above your head and all the blood flow is flowing from your fingers down here. And you're like, I don't feel my arm when I have my arm over my head. But if you're just normally sitting and you can't feel anything, that's okay. That's the beginning stages of realizing you're not the body. I repeat, when you stop feeling your physical body, that's the beginning stages of you realizing you're not the body. So when you're sitting and there's like, am I in a chair anymore? Am I in a room? Where was I? Right? When we say come back to your body in meditation, come back, come back, come back. And then you're like, I am back. But where was I? You were in the void. Okay. It's a good question. Next question, recommended retreat centers in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Again, recommended retreat centers in the tri-state area. That's a good question. So relative to pranic healing and hatha yoga, if you go to pranichealingusa.com, pranichealingusa.com, you'll see the different centers that the Lyndhurst Center is responsible for, and those centers connected to it. So there's centers all throughout the East Coast, but also Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. There's also the MCKS Meditation Center, which is in Bovina, New York. It's in the Catskills, not upstate New York, but kind of upstate New York. This beautiful cow town, super chill, quiet, and the MCKS Meditation Center it's on 70 acres, and I think they're in the process of buying more acreage over the next year or so. And there's 3 buildings on that. So that's a place that retreats are held throughout the year, typically during the summer months and fall. Also, there are many within that part of New York, within the Catskills of New York, there's 2 or 3 Tibetan centers, right? Tibetans, because pranic healing and hatha yoga is connected to the lineage of compassion and mercy, and it's grounded in Tibetan Buddhism, the Nyingmapa tradition, which means the eldest or first, oldest or first for the Nyingmapa tradition. So, and there's Tibetan Buddhist centers, pagodas around around the world, but I've been all over the United States, and I've seen many, many, many Tibetan centers. So I can't give you, hey, a specific one other than go to pranichealingusa.com. Also the MCKS Meditation Center in Bovina, New York. And then there are pranic healing centers scattered throughout the East Coast that you can find at pranichealingusa.com. And there's Vipassana centers, if you want to do a 10-day Vipassana retreat where you're in silence. I get it, but I kind of applaud the people who aren't regular meditators, don't get regular energy healing, and then will do a 10-day Vipassana. And the first 4 to 5 days is absolute torture for them because there's no talking, there's no eye contact, and there's nothing to do in your room. So you're basically sitting in your room for 10 days. You have breaks for lunch and physical exercise and walking meditation, what have you. But in essence, you're sitting in a room staring at a white wall, being aware of your breath for 10 days. And people that are not used to dealing with that go crazy up to 5 days into it. And then they have that purge of their mental body and emotional body and physical body. And then guess what? They hit some stride. They hit this like deep, deep stillness. Pranic healing, we have all these preparatory things, and including getting energetically cleansed of the mental body and emotional body. So it's much easier to be aware of the breath, to be physically still, emotionally calm, mentally sharp. Make sense? So I prefer the way that pranic healing sets up its retreats. Nothing against the Vipassana tradition. It's super important because it's dealing with awareness, right? And without awareness, no inner transformation. But most people can't be aware of the finer things in life because they're being inundated with the programs and the loudness, the internal noise of their lives. Next question. Is there such a thing as spiritual meditation versus meditation? I think I've been meditating correctly for a while now, but never consistent. I'm not sure if I understand it correctly or even if other people don't understand it correctly. I don't think I understand that part of the question. What truly is meditation, and what are monks actually doing when they meditate? How do I experience a spiritual awakening or something along these lines while meditating? What is the difference between breath work and meditation? I'm willing to try whatever, but what I don't want is to be trying the wrong thing. Good. So that's a level of discernment, right? So there's a well-known atheist right? An atheist, as Master Cho would say, is someone who's over-identified with form, right? An atheist says, where's God, right? Show me God, show me the form of God. And they go, you can't show me the form, therefore God doesn't exist, right? So this particular person named Sam Harris, he is a Buddhist, he's an atheist that leans into Buddhist practices connected to meditation, because he says, look, these monks have been put under scientific inquiry, and they've been proven to change body temperature. They've been proven to fire off different parts of their brains, because he's a neuroscientist. So he studies that stuff. And he says, there must be some validity in practicing whatever they're practicing that's causing the physiological and psychological states within them without them believing in God. Because in the Buddhist tradition, depending upon which level of truth or which school of Buddhism you're looking into, they don't talk about God. They don't talk about the soul. They call it the no soul. But it's a misunderstanding, right? Misinterpretation. So he leans in that direction. He goes, look, I can meditate and receive all these great benefits of being calmer, being able to think clear, and I don't have to believe in God. So it's like spiritual meditation versus regular meditation or meditation. But meditation is the practice of oneness with God and oneness with all. Because here's the thing. Okay, great. Your goal is to meditate, to be calm, and to think clearer. For what purpose? Well, so I can do my work more efficiently. What's the purpose of doing your work more efficiently? I don't know, so I don't make mistakes. Why don't you want to make mistakes? Because it causes me suffering. It causes other people suffering. Why is that important? So if you keep digging and digging and digging, you go further and further towards what? Or I should say closer and closer and closer to what? Oneness, right? So Grandmaster Chogo Kokusui was an atheist when he was in his early 20s, because he had religion shoved down his throat from 3 different sources growing up. And then he rejected it. And then he started to study it. And then he started practicing certain things, and certain things started to become revealed to him. And then he says, the existence of God is self-evident. So an atheist, by the definition of the teacher, is someone who is over-identified with form. Which is kind of funny, because I know several atheists who were sitting in a introduction to pranic healing lecture, and the instructors would bring that up, and then that would be enough to bring the atheist into pranic healing. And some of these people have been in pranic healing for 15, 20 plus years, and their entire lives have been transformed, and they didn't believe in God, right? So all meditation in its purest sense is about experiencing oneness with God, oneness with all. On the lower levels of truth, having more inner peace, having more harmonious relationships at work and at home, keeping your mind sharp, understanding things. What's the purpose of understanding something? Is your purpose of understanding to create greater separation, or is your purpose of understanding something to have greater oneness, to see the interconnectedness of knowledge, right? So someone with a huge crown sees oneness in everything. Someone with a teeny tiny itty bitty baby crown only sees separation. So, and then he uses a term, how do I experience a spiritual awakening? For what purpose? And he's asking to experience something that he knows nothing about. Why does he want to experience something he knows nothing about? Because it sounds good? So this would be a perfect example of the importance of having a teacher in our lives, because a teacher could sit him down and give him very clear answers to help move his life forward. And what is the difference between breath work and meditation? If you can control the breathing, you can control the mind, you can control the emotions, you can control the physical body. That's the importance of breath work. because pranayama access is higher than the mental body, more subtle, more refined than the mental body. So if you want to control your thoughts, control your breathing. You go, Christian, but what's controlling the breathing? Exactly, the soul. And I'm willing to try whatever, but I don't want, what I don't want is to be trying the wrong thing. So again, it goes back to discernment. A big thing on the spiritual path is it's very, and I can attest to this, it's very difficult to discern, especially, write this down, especially at the higher levels. The higher levels of your spiritual life, it's more and more and more crucial to discern, and it's more difficult to discern. Because then you start going to different planes and seeing different things and hearing different things and experiencing different things, and you start believing that that's the end all be all, or that's the highest truth, or that's the answer to your prayers, when all it is a stepping stone. And you have to see it as a stepping stone to go higher, to experience greater oneness. So all meditation is spiritual, because what's spiritual? Taking something material and making it refined. What's materialization? Taking something subtle and making it dense. So all meditation is spiritual. All meditation is spiritual. Because you're grabbing, quote unquote, because meditation is transformative. So you're grabbing spiritual energies and infusing spiritual energies into every part of your life. And you're taking the physical matter of your being and you're bringing it up to the higher realms. So you're doing both. You're transforming and transmuting, and then eventually transcending, going beyond. Transcendental meditation is meditation that goes beyond. It's almost redundant, right? You're going beyond the physical body, going beyond the emotional body, going beyond the mind. I hope that helps. Next question. How do I ensure a good birth for my baby using pranic healing? Great question. Again, how do I ensure a good birth for my baby using pranic healing? So Grandmaster Chola Kuksu, in his infinite wisdom, when he was developing pranic healing, he was asking the question, what does humanity need? Humanity needs physical healing. So he developed basic and advanced pranic healing. Humanity needs psychological healing and relationship healing, developed pranic psychotherapy. They need environmental healing of their home and office, pranic feng shui. They need financial healing to be more prosperous, to put more goodwill in the world. He created Kriya Shakti. Higher levels of healing, higher clairvoyance, faster healing with less contamination, crystal pranic healing, right? All for the purpose of healing, but on what level of truth, what do the people need? So when a mother is pregnant, does she experience a lot of physical and psychological and emotional stress? Yes or no? Yes. So if the mother is stressed out, does it affect the baby? Yes or no? Yes. So there is a protocol developed within pranic healing that heals the mother when the baby's still in the womb, a protocol during the labor, and then a protocol after the labor for the mother and the baby. So when my ex-wife was pregnant with our son, it almost brings tears to my eyes, because she was the happiest mother, the happiest pregnant woman I've ever seen. And she talked about it years later. She was so happy all the time. And they talk about the glow, the pregnant glow. She had it all the time. I could almost see pink energy radiating off of her. And like, she was just super loving and fun. And she was really, really excited the whole time with Gabriel. So we did pranic healing pretty regularly for up to 3 months before pregnancy. Then the day that she went into labor, She was in labor for 3 hours. 3 hours. She pushed 8 times in the water. He was born at home in the water, pushed 8 times. Out he came, no crying. We weighed him, 8 pounds exactly. She crawled into bed. He crawled into bed with her. He latched on to breastfeed, and they were both asleep. Done and done. Easy peasy, right? We ordered a pizza too. So they ate the pizza. He didn't eat the pizza. Well, he kind of indirectly ate the pizza. She ate the pizza. He went to bed. I ate the pizza. I stayed up and I cleaned up a little bit, helped out with the doula and I forget the other woman, the doula and the helper of the doula. It's eluding me right now, but it was a beautiful experience. And she doesn't remember any of the time period of the birth. She doesn't remember going into labor, doesn't remember what happened in labor. She only remembers the next day when she kind of came out, right? When she woke up, when she was normalizing. And I don't know if she was being protected or what the thing was, but when she was going into labor, I was doing the pranic healing protocol because it's for easy delivery. And she was laughing. She was telling jokes, like they were pretty high level jokes. She doesn't remember any of it. Even to this day, 16 years later, remembers none of it. So it's in the advanced book. I have to double check. I'm pretty sure it's in the advanced book, and it might also be in the psychotherapy book. But you have to be very, very careful with healing pregnant women because the baby's chakras are still forming, right? The chakras don't fully form until the child is like 7 years old. So in the fetus, you have to be super, super gentle and soft when you're cleaning the baby. And you can't use colors. That's in general, right? In general, you can't use colors. You have to be super, super soft on the mother's aura, on the baby's aura, cleaning the navel, cleaning the sex. There's not a lot of energizing that you would want to do because you can, if you energize a pregnant mother too much, you can go into premature labor, right? So you have to be very careful. So the lower chakras of a pregnant mother are huge. The navel is gigantic, the sex chakra is gigantic, the main is gigantic, and the basic chakra is gigantic. Why? Because those are the chakras that deal with materializing something physically, literally creating a human being. But yes, there is a pranic healing protocol for good birth. So you do healing a month up until the delivery date, and then when the mother's water breaks, you do healing on her and the baby, right? Remove all the blockages, keep the energy nice and clean. She has a smooth, easy delivery, and then you do healing afterwards. Because would we agree that birth can be traumatizing for a baby? Yes or no? Yes, right? So my mentor, who was about a mile and a half down the road from me, the next day, he's a very good healer, very good clairvoyant, and he also was a licensed massage therapist who also specialized in craniosacral. So you can do craniosacral on babies. And so he came over and he goes, I'll do craniosacral on Gabriel to make any adjustments that any stressors or traumas that might have happened during the delivery. And he was doing the adjustments. Kimberly was holding him and he was doing the adjustments. And he goes, he must have had a super easy birth. He's like, he was saying like there's no misalignment or stress in his body. I'm like, sweet, protocol worked. But she was a super happy pregnant mom. She didn't watch any violent. This is another thing to be aware of as a pregnant mother, is you stay away from violence. You stay away from injury. You stay away from cruelty, visually, auditorily, kinesthetically. So no arguing, no fighting, right? Think about how many couples argue and fight when the mother's pregnant. It's not good for the baby because the baby is absorbing all the cortisol, not all, some of it, but also energetically being influenced. So Kimberly, funny enough, She was more into her spiritual practice when she was pregnant. I was more into my spiritual practice and healing practice when she was pregnant. We did fun things together. She read lots of spiritual books. We always had this beautiful music playing in the background. We had beautiful pictures of saints and of the pranic healing angel and Master Choa throughout our apartment. So and she laughed a lot, and everyone was super nice around her, and she didn't overwork, right? We still had responsibilities and things we had to take care of, but all in all, it was really, really good. So if I, God willing, have another child or children, then I'm going to be following the same ease of birth protocol prior to giving birth, the day of giving birth, and then afterwards. Okay. Excellent. Next question. Is there a way to tell if someone is going to die using energy techniques? What kind of question is that? Yes, there is. I can probably cover most of this. Okay, so we have a spiritual cord. We have a cord going up, and we have a cord coming down. Two different cords. A spiritual cord and an antakarana. One going up, one going down. Right? One is it's the incarnated soul communicating to the higher soul, and then the other cord is the higher soul communicating to us. Both need to be big in order to properly, rapidly, and safely evolve. You also have a root cord that goes from your perineum, right, which is in between. Somebody asked me the other day, what's a perineum? In between your sex organ, your vagina or your penis, and your anus, in between those two is your perineum. The soft spot, that's your perineum. That is where your root cord is. That goes into Mother Earth. It connects you, grounds you, roots you. You're connected to Mother Earth. So when people have Kundalini syndrome, they have lots of Kundalini energy coming up from Mother Earth, going through a dirty pipe, and then that's moving dirty, congested energies around the person's energy body. What cools that down and what regulates that is a downpour of spiritual energy through the spiritual cord or through the antakarana. Okay, so what does this have to do with people dying? In general, you want the root cord to be the same size as the spiritual cord, right? In general. So you're rooted to God, to your higher self, to the great teachers, to God, and you're rooted to earth. Very spiritual people tend to have bigger cords, spiritual cords and antakaranas, and smaller root cords. When someone is about to leave the body, you can scan and their spiritual cord, their root cord gets substantially smaller and their spiritual cord gets substantially bigger because the soul is leaving, right? It's like this. It's an inverted pyramid or a V. Because when you're really, really rooted and connected to Mother Earth, you're like that or like this, right? But as you're about to leave the body, it changes. So a good scanner can scan. Oh, okay, so spiritual cord a month ago was here, root cord a month ago was here, spiritual cord now, root cord now. Okay. And if they're the same, the person's going to stay in their physical body. Also, for very, very high level, very, very good clairvoyance, they can look at the permanent physical seed atom within the heart chakra of a person. If that becomes dim and other things, the person is getting ready to leave. And so there was a couple pranic healers I could know within a couple weeks of the death date. Your death date is in your heart. Your death date is in your heart. So a very good clairvoyant. Most advanced spiritual teachers have this knowledge. They can look at the heart chakra They can go into the heart chakra and they know the death date of the disciple. Because truth is dynamic, because you're a person of free will, all things being equal, that's your death date. But guess what? If you start generating good karma, you start doing lots of healing, you start doing lots of service, you start being an instrument of goodwill and the will to do good, it extends your death date. If you are going to be a horrible person, cruel and mean and bitter and what have you, it changes the death date. So that's why truth is dynamic. So you go, well, wait a minute, you said my death date was this, and I'm still here. Because, well, maybe you did more service. Maybe you learned a lesson. Maybe you generated some good karma to nudge you a little bit more forward, right? So it depends. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but all things being equal, that would be the death date. And if the person, the two people I'm thinking of, have a track record of success of being accurate with people's death dates. So, and also a good scanner can scan the death date as well. So one can look at it and know it, another one can scan it and know it. So basically what's happening when someone's about to die is the upper chakras are expanding much more than the lower chakras are. Because the soul is withdrawing. So when it withdraws from the lower chakras first, because physical life. So it's like, remember what keeps us animated is not this, it's the soul. The soul animates us, right? So as the soul starts withdrawing itself, physical body starts losing its capacity, right? Older people that are getting closer to dying, does their physical body have more vitality or less vitality? Typically less, right? And this is the natural course of a person dying, not an accident and what have you. But the accident can also be in the death date of the heart. But in general, it's the soul is extracting or removing its energy from that center little by little. So the person's not as dynamic. Maybe they go into a coma. Maybe they have a stroke. Interesting. Heart chakra, basic chakra, physical heart. And then the emotional body, then the mental bodies, the last to go. The shells, you have a physical shell, etheric shell, emotional shell, mental shell. So the higher soul is withdrawing from each of those areas. Too much? Depressing? We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. It's part of life. Next question. What do you like least about the work you do? Ooh. I thought about this a while back. One thing, it's not entirely accurate, but it's something that comes to mind. It's the feeling of having to always be on, even in my interpersonal relationships, because I'm always seeking to understand, I'm always doing healing. It's like it's integrated into my personality. So, which means I'm always like turned on, like gotta look, gotta scan, gotta know, gotta understand. It's not like just being like, I don't have to help this person right now. I don't have to heal this person right now. I don't have to give insight to this person right now. I can just sit and listen. But it doesn't work that way because you're like getting information, you're getting insights, you're hearing things, you're seeing things, you're feeling things, and you're like, because you guys remember from Spider-Man, with great power comes what? Great responsibility. So as you continue to move up the spiritual ladder and your abilities start to become awakened, you have a responsibility to use them intelligently and consistently. So I think coming to terms with that has been a challenge for me. And so I wouldn't say it's what I like least about the work that I do, but coming to terms with you're a healer, you incarnated to help and to heal and to transform the lives of other people, whether you whether your personality likes it or not. So suck it up, Buttercup, and get after it. Also another thing, which this has gotten way better for me. I've never been a drinker, never been a drugger. I didn't do any of that stuff until my mid 30s. My body's 41 now. So I didn't drink. I think I had my first drink ever was a shot of port wine at an Italian restaurant in Berlin, Germany with my host family when I was 19 years old. I didn't drink anything else. I had a sip of raspberry malt liquor with my ex-wife when we were living in the hood, which is kind of a funny story in and of itself. And then I didn't have another drink until my mid 30s. Isn't that amazing? Something around that time. So basically, to sum it up, from birth to my mid 30s, I had maybe that much liquor in my entire life. That much. And I think that's pretty realistic. I think that's pretty accurate. And then drugs, didn't do any drugs, a little bit of pot in my mid 30s, some edibles in my mid 30s, accidentally smoked hash at a nude, what is it called? Hot Springs, right outside of Oxnard, California. No, I'm sorry, Ojai, California. Beautiful place. Like, you want to talk about nature scene and being out in nature and just absorbing the fresh energies of nature. It was super remote, beautiful, and I almost died that day. Not because of smoking something that was laced with hashish, but what I did afterwards. But hey, you live and you learn, right? It took about 5 days to get out of my system. So I didn't expose myself to many drugs, cigarettes. I smoked one cigarette when I was 5 years old from my stepfather. Christian, you're sharing so much. I wanted to see what that was like because I saw my dad smoked since I can remember, and my stepfather smoked at that time. He doesn't smoke anymore. And I was like, is there something to this whole smoking thing? So I took a puff, one or two puffs of the cigarette when I was 5 years old. I stole one out of my stepfather's carton. I grabbed the lighter. I'm supposed to get a lighter for my incense. I grabbed a lighter. I hid behind the chair. This is in Providence, Rhode Island. I hid behind the chair and I took two puffs and I was like, burned my lungs, super uncomfortable. And I'm like, why would anyone want to do this? Right around the same time, because I thought I'd get all my rejecting of addictions right out of my system early on. And then when I was 5 years old, I had a sip of beer, like Budweiser beer or something like that from my grandfather, my step grandfather. And it was disgusting. Never liked beer since. And so basically my whole life, I pretty much was straight laced, didn't do drugs, didn't drink, didn't smoke. I didn't sleep around, right? And then when I got into my early 30s to mid 30s, I was like, let me explore a little bit more. Let me, relive my youth. Let me experience the things I didn't experience. And surprise, surprise, I knew then I wasn't missing anything. And then I realized that when I actually did experience those things, I wasn't missing anything. So, but my point is, being a professional energy healer at the level of my practice for doing this so long, when I say ordinary people, I mean average people. And right, there's an average. Like we have an average height in the world, we have average weight in the world. So average ordinary people can do things, smoking, drugs, drinking, without intense ramifications to their energy body or their psychological state. Fair? Not putting anyone down. I'm just saying what is, okay? So the work that I do, in order to be good at it, requires me to do certain things that other people would not do. So for instance, an Olympian has to do what? 6 to 8 hours training per day, 6 days a week for a decade, and have a coach, have a therapist, have a this, have a that, have to have their nutrition a certain way in order to operate at that level for the chance of making it through the Olympic trials, getting into the Olympics, and possibly winning a medal. For the chance. It's not a guarantee, right? But I'm sure there are many days like, I just want to take the week off and just go ham. I just want to stuff my face with Big Macs and fries and chicken nuggets, and I want to eat, all these other things, because it's like, right? Because it's the purification of the physical, emotional, mental bodies, right? So it's the same thing on the spiritual path in the purification practices that we do in pranic healing or Hatha yoga, that you're like, okay, most ordinary people can go out and have 3 or 4 drinks and the next day wake up, be completely fine, and go about their ordinary average lives unimpeded, right? But you take an energy body that's been cleansed and purified and refined over a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, and they accidentally eat pork, which I have many stories of this with friends of mine. They accidentally eat pork and they have excruciatingly strong headache that will last a day or two, like a migraine. And you go, well, that person's a big baby. No, it's the person's energy body is calibrated. It's so refined that they have to watch very carefully what they eat. And then as you start going higher and higher, you have to start practicing what comes out of your mouth. Then you have to start practicing what comes out of your mind. Then you have to start practicing other things. And so if you're living an unhealthy, unwholesome, unregulated lifestyle, you're going to suffer greater than ordinary person that's just like, yeah, I went out Friday night with some friends and had some drinks. So that would probably be something that's a little frustrating for me, because I do want to socialize. I do want to mix it up. I don't have a judgment of, that person's such a low vibrational being. I don't want to hang out with them. It's like, no, they're a good time. I laugh, whatever. And so if we go to places, I have to be like, yeah, I'm just going to get a virgin drink, or I'm just going to get a soda, or I'm just going to get a whatever, right? So that would be a challenge that I would have. And there are many yogis inside and outside of pranic healing that don't have those challenges. For them being a vegetarian, super easy. For them not doing drugs or alcohol or sleeping around, super easy, right? They have other challenges, other vices, other weaknesses that they're working through. So you got to see people where they are and accept them and understand them and be compassionate and then move forward. So I would say that's what I like least about the work that I do. It's not the work that I do. I love the work that I do, but it's all the back end stuff that has to be done and in place in order to effectively do the work that I do. Funny enough, I wish this was my karma, but it's not. There's a master pranic healer. He was given mastership by Master Choa. He was a master healer, but he was never included in the main masters within pranic healing. But he was an Australian master who was in his 60s, and he was curing regularly. He was curing people of cancer, documented the whole deal, right? Nobody understood how he was able to do it. But he was trained in pranic healing. He was an Arhatic yogi, right? And he smoked like a chimney. Now, for anyone that remembers what they're taught in pranic healing basic class, that meat eaters heal other meat eaters. They don't heal vegetarians. Smokers heal other smokers. They don't heal non-smokers, because the energy, the vibration is much, much different. So if a meat eater starts projecting prana to a vegetarian, right, the energy body of the vegetarian will start becoming congested and filled with dirtier energy or slower vibrational energy, right? But for some reason, and also cancer is a very heavy energy. So I don't have to look into it more. But this person smoked like a chimney, but would heal people and they would experience miraculous results. Amazing, right? This person left their body a few years ago, but lived a very interesting life, as I understand it. I've never met the person personally, but of what I've heard of this person from a couple of the masters and other senior practitioners, he was a very, very interesting guy that was healing people of cancer, who was a healer who smoked like a chimney. Maybe his vibration was so high, it helped him drop his energy, or maybe smoking allowed him to merge with the energies of the cancer of the people he was working on. I don't know. I'd have to look into it further. So it's the back end of what you have to do, because the healing part is easy, right? How long is a healing? 15, 20 minutes, right? But you have to have an entire lifestyle built around that 15 or 20 minutes. So that's what's challenging. It's the same thing with a professional athlete. They're training and training and training all the time to play what? A 2-hour game, a 3-hour game, once a month, once every 2 weeks. But their whole life has to be built around that performance. It's a big deal. Okay. Last question. I have been estranged from my parents and most of my family for many years and feel like reconnecting with them. Should I? That depends. This one is a little bit harder for me to answer because it does depend. So, do we need to talk to somebody to forgive them? Yes or no? No. Do we need to write a letter to someone and send it to them in order to forgive them? No. Because forgiveness is not to the personality, forgiveness is to the soul. So even if someone hurt you, is no longer in the body, you're still hurt by them, yes? So you still need to practice forgiveness. So in the case of being estranged from friends, or pretty much estranged from family members, if it's important to you, you have to ask this question, why am I estranged from them? Was there some trauma? Was there some abuse? Was there something that caused us all to be angry with one another and separate from one another? I would recommend practicing forgiveness on the key people for a minimum of 30 days, because estrangement is something that's a long term, like a severe pain, trauma that's been dragged out for 5 or 10 years. So I would do forgiveness on that person or persons, each person for 30 days, then re-engage, because then you'll be coming from a softer heart, you'll have more compassion, you'll have more understanding, more insights, and you can deal with the energy. And as we talk about in pranic healing, as you forgive, it changes the other person as well, right? So as you soften, it softens the connection with you and the other person or persons. But there are some relationships that, I know many, many people on the path, not just pranic healing or Hatha yoga, but many people on the path that came from extraordinarily dysfunctional relationship, extremely dysfunctional family dynamics. So you have people who are empathic, people that are sensitive, people that are looking for answers to life's bigger questions. They already feel weird and outcasted from their families, right? Just ordinarily. And then they start getting onto the path. Then they start doing practices that makes them look even weirder than they previously were viewed by their parents or their family. And then the person's vibration changes even more from the people who aren't practicing. And so you have a rift, you have disharmony, you have estrangement. So look at it like your family. You have karma with your family. That's why you were born into that family. And you have to work through that karma. But as I've learned through working through the dynamic and healing of my own family dynamic, the father I had, the mother that I had, the 2 older brothers that I have, they are who they are. I can't change them. I can love them from afar. I can bless them from afar. I can heal them from afar, because even doing this work for 18 years, they still don't understand me. They still don't understand what I do. My brothers have respect for me that they didn't have before, because they can see Every year, my life gets better and better and better and better. And they're like, he must be doing something. What's he doing? But they don't ask. They don't ask for healing. They don't ask for understanding. Because they have their own programs they're in. So if you feel the deep need to reach out to a family member who you've been estranged from for a number of months or years, do forgiveness first and go in with the loving heart and go in with realistic expectations that, maybe the person's not going to want to really reconnect, or maybe it's not going to be something long term, or maybe you're just going to have that one moment. I know many people, not on the spiritual path, but many people that came from some of them on the path came from, they were adopted and they wanted to reach out to a parent that gave them up for adoption or reconnect with their birth parents. And all they needed to have was that one phone call or that one interaction in person. And that was all that they needed. They don't feel that it's been put to rest. So maybe that's what you need to have closure. You don't need, if there's anger and hurt and trauma, you don't need to reconnect with that person to heal it. Right? You don't have to. You just have to practice forgiveness from one soul to another soul, and then the karma is neutralized. But if you're like, you know what, I want to reconnect with this person. I want to have lunch with them. I want to spend a weekend with them. I want to move to the town that they're in and see if we can repair the relationship. Well, then that's a more involved practice that requires both parties to be open. So you can be estranged from a child because maybe you did something and hurt your child years ago, and you're like, I want to repair the relationship. Well, you got a lot of work ahead of you. And that's your call. Some people, how do I put this? They realize how much they're going to have to invest to make it happen. And they're saying, you know what, it's not worth it to me. Like, as a small example, I wear glasses, right? There's a pranic healing protocol where I can not wear glasses anymore, but it requires consistency over a prolonged period of time and using lots of energy. Not worth it to me. I could do it, like clean my eyes well enough, make the adjustments in my temple minor, my ajna, and I would be able to see clearly. But how much effort? So it's like, if you have an estranged relationship and it's tormenting you, definitely practice forgiveness, which will clear things up, give you greater perspective. And then you can still say, you know what, if it takes 3 years of inner work and consistency to change this in the hopes of having a loving, harmonious connection with this person or persons, I'm willing to do it. But you have to go into it realistically. Right? It's not like, okay, I'm ready to connect to so-and-so. I'm going to call them up, and then you call them up and they still don't like you, or there's still a lot of disharmony and hurt. And you're like, what's their problem? And then you get worked up about that. You have to look at it realistically, because think about it. The thing that caused the estrangement was a huge trauma, which has never been healed for you or the other person. So that needs to be healed, neutralized. It's interesting because we would think, hey, it's been 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. It should be done. No, the seed of trauma and pain was planted 10, 15, 20 years ago, and it grew in that person's energy body and your energy body. They say time heals all wounds. Not really. Something has to shift in time to heal that. But how many do we know people that had something happen when they were 5, 10 years old, and they're in their 60s and 70s and they're still pissed off about it? Hello? Don't you think 60 years is enough time to not be pissed off? Because they never worked on it. They never healed the trauma, and it only got more calcified over time. So it's harder to heal, and it attracts similar energies of continuing to be traumatized. So I hope that helps you, beautiful souls, for today. We ran over. I have no idea. I think we're maybe did an hour and 45 minutes for today's Q&A, but so what? It was fun. Yay. And again, congratulations on making it through another year. We're in 2022 now on January 2nd. And make sure you have your intention. Make sure you be aware of that intention throughout this year and transform as a human being and as a soul. So shall we close? Beware the heart, beware the crown, beware them together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, respected and beloved teacher, Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui, to his teacher, Lord Bodhisattva Meilin, to Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, to Lord Ganesh, to Mother Lakshmi, to Holy Master Count Saint Germain, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, healing ministers, to our divine selves, our higher souls, we thank you all for your great, great blessings, for your healing energies. Thank you for transforming us in all ways. Thank you for setting us on the right path for this year of 2022 and beyond. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you with gratitude, respect, and love. So be it, and so it is. Thank you. Ta-da! Lots of love to you guys. Enjoy your 2022, and I will talk to you soon. This is Christian Long, Life Enhancement Consultant, wishing you a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and a beautiful life. Atma, namaste. Bye-bye.